everyone. Today the Bookworms are going to be reading a book by National Geographic Kids. Weird but True, Canada. 300 outrageous facts about the true North. With more than 350 shipwrecks off its coast, Sable Island, Nova Scotia is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic. In Saskatchewan, a hooded sweatshirt is called a bunny hug. A seaweed harvested from the North Atlantic and North Pacific coasts tastes like bacon. Every year, Vancouver hosts a charity bicycle ride whose participants dress in tweed. Montreal's mayor once asked to borrow the Eiffel Tower from Paris for the 1967 World Expo. France said no. Residents of Winnipeg, Manitoba drink more Slurpees per year than people anywhere else in the world. Quebec produces more than 70% of the world's supply of maple syrup. The first parkas were made by Inuit who sewed them from caribou or sealskin. Ice road truckers have to closely follow the speed limit, sometimes driving only 15 kilometers an hour, to avoid cracking the ice. The Northwest Territories is home to the world's longest ice road, ice so thick that it can support a 64-ton truck. Moose can swim as far as 20 kilometers without stopping. The Capilano Suspension Bridge in Vancouver can hold up to 96 elephants. Scientists have found a crater in Quebec that's longer than the Grand Canyon. A park in Malacca, British Columbia is home to more than 350 fairy, dragon, pirate, and dwarf figurines hidden among 800-year-old trees. The Athabasca sand dunes in Saskatchewan can be 9 stories tall. Scientists found 2-billion-year-old water thought to be the world's oldest in a Canadian mine. Mother polar bears usually give birth to twins. The Signpost Forest in Watson Lake, Yukon has more than 77,000 direction signs that visitors have left over the years. A bagpiper plays at a Montreal store every day at noon and has for the past 50 years. A Nova Scotia university sets up a puppy room for students to relax in before the finals. The town of Macklin, Saskatchewan has a statue of horse's ankle bone that's 9.7 meters tall. Only 2 1911 silver dollars were ever made. Today, each is worth more than $1 million. During the annual Slush Cup in Banff, Alberta, daredevil competitors race down slopes and attempt to ski across a slushy swimming pool, a sport that's also known as pond skimming. Pond skimmers can also win prizes for best costume and best belly flop. Until 2009, it was against the law to yell, whistle, sing, or hoot in Petrolia, Ontario. At the CN Tower in Toronto, you can walk around the outside of the 107th story, the highest outdoor walk in the world. The inspiration for author A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh was a female black bear cub from Winnipeg, Manitoba. In 1945, the Dutch royal family sent 100,000 tulips to Canada as thanks for sheltering their princess during World War II. Vancouver Island hosts a race in which participants paddle 60 kilometers in bathtubs. People in Churchill, Manitoba leave their cars unlocked in case passerby need to escape from a polar bear. One Canadian goose can poop about 1.3 kilograms a day. A Canadian donut shop once made a donut topped with hot sauce and corn chips. Canadian lynx will save meals for later by burying them in snow. Every spring, residents in Victoria, British Columbia count how many flowers they can find. The record is nearly 26 billion. Rare bright blue lobsters have been caught off the coast of the Atlantic provinces. The odds of catching one are just 1 in 2 million. The water of Manitoba's Little Limestone Lake changes color with the temperature. Canadian Fury's Pete holds records for the most hamburgers eaten in a minute, the fastest time to eat a bowl of pasta, and the fastest time to eat a hot dog with no hands. Cans and plastic bottles were banned on Prince Edward Island until 2008. Before then, they used only bottles made of glass. North America's oldest and smallest jail is in Rodney, Ontario. It's only about the size of a living room. 11 Canadian dancers won a record for breakdancing non-stop for 24 days. More than 24 cars are parked on the seafloor of Halifax Harbour, Nova Scotia, after accidentally being dumped by a container ship. The Old Country Market in Coombs, British Columbia has goats that graze on its grassy roof. It was illegal until 1995 for margarine companies to color their product yellow so it wouldn't be confused with butter. Each player on the Stanley Cup winning hockey team gets to spend a day with a trophy. One player filled it with a giant ice cream sundae. The world's largest hockey stick in Duncan, British Columbia, weighs more than 38,000 regular hockey sticks. In Whistler, British Columbia, brave riders cruise more than 436 meters above the ground in glass-floored gondolas between ski resorts. Canada's largest diamond mine opened in 2003, and miners have since extracted 20 tons of the precious gem. The first U.S. patent for peanut butter in a candy was granted to a Canadian. Beavers have bright orange teeth. Roughly 1,000 polar bears spend their winters in Manitoba's Wapusk National Park, one of the only places in the world where visitors can see cubs. The world's largest lobster caught off the coast of Nova Scotia weighed 20 kilograms. That's as heavy as 32 basketballs. The game of bannock involves throwing horse ankle bones to knock down an opponent's pieces. Each year, a lake in Alberta's Jasper National Park fills with melted glacier water and empties like a bathtub through sinkholes in the lake bed. Some towns use beet juice to melt ice on wintry roads. The Pacific water shrew walks on water using tiny bubbles trapped under its feet. Cod tongue and pickled moose nose are delicacies in Newfoundland. At a spa in Nanaimo, British Columbia, you can get a chocolate sugar foot scrub. The Canadian Hockey League 2008 championship trophy broke in half as it was handed to the winning team. Astronaut Gary Shemitov took Montreal bagels with him aboard the International Space Station. Bowhead whales can live more than 200 years. Churchill, Manitoba has heated see-through bubbles you can sit inside to watch the northern lights. Competitors race across a lake seated inside bathtub-sized gourds during Nova Scotia's annual Giant Pumpkin Regatta. Hawaiian pizza, a pie topped with ham and pineapple, was invented in Chatham, Ontario. It would take 33 years to walk Canada's coastline. It's the longest in the world. Bubble soccer players compete while wearing giant inflatable suits over their clothes. In 2007, members of the U.S. government mistakenly thought the 25-cent Canadian poppy coin contained spy technology. In underwater hockey, also known as octopush, players wear flippers and snorkel masks and use tiny sticks to hit a puck on the bottom of a pool. Della Falls in British Columbia is nearly as tall as the CN Tower in Toronto. About 1 million candy canes are made each day in Hamilton, Manitoba. Terry Fox from British Columbia ran 5,733 kilometers in 143 days, nearly a marathon every day using a prosthetic leg. Pekwakname Koskwaskwe Pinwanik Lake in Manitoba is the longest place name in Canada. It means where the wild trout are caught by fishing with hooks. Montreal's Festival du Cochon features an event in which contestants chase and try to catch a greased pig. Scientists are growing a purple tomato in Canada that they say could make ketchup and pizza sauce healthier. It takes 151 liters of tree sap to make about 4 liters of maple syrup. Alberta is considered the hail capital of the world, with parts of the province getting more than 40 hailstorms each summer. Flying squirrels can turn 180 degrees in mid-air. Alberta's warm winds, called Chinooks or snow eaters, once caused the temperature to rise 40 degrees Celsius in a single day. In Saskatchewan, you can visit the town of Elbow and Eyebrow. Canada issued passports to Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. During lawnmower races, competitors reach speeds of up to 50 kilometers an hour. Nova Scotia is home to the world's largest fiddle, which stands 17 meters high, taller than 47 violins. Sushi pizza is a popular dish in Toronto. A loud, thumping hum rattles windows in Windsor, Ontario, but no one knows where the sound comes from. On a muddy, crab-filled course in Nova Scotia's Bay of Fundy, runners race against one another and the world's fastest incoming tide. A Toronto company invented a toy egg that hatches an animal when you cuddle and pat it for half an hour. Head to a Vancouver Island gas station to see the world's largest garden gnome made mostly from trash. Thousands of years ago, a black bear-sized beaver roamed Canada. The man who won the 2016 World Poutine Eating Championship in Toronto downed a whopping 11.6 kilograms of the dish. In Quebec, poutine is slang for mix or mess. Fresh cheese curds make a squeaking sound when you eat them. Saskatchewan is the only province in Canada that doesn't follow daylight saving time. A Canadian toad is recognizable by a raised bump called a boss between its eyes. When a wolverine steps on snow, its paws spread out to twice their normal size, like built-in snowshoes. Canada has more donut shops per person than any other country. It's a tradition in Parliament for the Prime Minister to drag a new Speaker of the Commons to his or her chair. Ontario holds the record for the most snow angels made at one time, 15,851. The world's largest teepee, constructed for the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, is 20 stories tall. In Newfoundland, you can visit Bacon Cove, Dumpling Harbor, and Cape Onion. Two friends in Montreal became millionaires after gathering 6,000 facts and inventing Trivial Pursuit, one of the world's most popular board games. In Alberta, it's considered bad luck to pick blackberries after October 11. Some hockey fans have tossed frozen waffles onto the ice at Toronto Maple Leafs games. A hotel in Banff National Park is reportedly haunted by an old bellman whom guests say sometimes opens elevator doors at floors no one has requested. In British Columbia, some black bears known as spirit bears are born white. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was once a bungee jumping coach. A Canadian candy company was the first to put chocolates in a heart-shaped box. A male bighorn sheep's horns can weigh as much as 13 kilograms, more than the combined weight of all the bones in its body. Archaeologists discovered what may be the oldest footprints in North America, made about 13,000 years ago on the coast of British Columbia. Orcas can recognize themselves in a mirror. In 2016, Canada produced about 73 million kilograms of maple syrup, heavier than 10 Eiffel Towers. 12 people can fit inside the mouth of the world's largest dinosaur statue in Alberta. The town Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia, is made up of 365 islands. During Canadian curling tournaments, only those sweeps made with mustard yellow nylon bristles are legal for pushing the stone across the ice. The official phone number for information about Canada is 1-800-O-Canada. In Vancouver, there is a statue of a breaching orca that looks like it's made of building blocks. Gastown, a neighborhood in Vancouver, is named after an early settler called Gassy Jack, who loved to talk. 1/3 of the world's French fries are from a single Canadian food company. Rocky Mountain air is so clean that one Canadian company bottles and sells it. A man in Nova Scotia broke a world record by juggling 3 running chainsaws, catching them 94 times in just 37 seconds. This northern Pacific rattlesnake can go a whole year without eating. The oldest known rock discovered in Hudson Bay is 4 billion years old, nearly as old as Earth itself. A man once drove a Zamboni all the way across Canada. The ice in Alberta's Abraham Lake traps methane bubbles that, if released and ignited, can burn like a torch. A 3.5-story tall Ukrainian-style Easter egg in Vickerville, Alberta turns in the wind like a weather vane. The limestone walls of Manitoba's legislative building contain 500-million-year-old invertebrate fossils. Inscribed on the Stanley Cup in the name of the 1962-63 NHL champions misspelled as the Toronto Maple Leafs. Quebec's St. Louis du Ha-Ha is the only town name in the world with 2 exclamation points. Canadians eat more than 12 kilograms of cheese every year on average. Wind-driven ice yachts glide on runners across frozen lakes, reaching speeds up to 160 kilometers an hour. Ice yachts can speed 5 times faster than the wind that drives them. The world's largest Coca-Cola can is painted on a water tank in Portage-la Prairie, Manitoba. The red paperclip house in Kipling, Saskatchewan got its name from a man who traded up a red paperclip for more valuable items 14 times until he ended up with the home. It's illegal to scare or play a prank on the Queen of England. Saskatoon berries, which look like blueberries, are actually members of the apple family. Thieves once stole $18 million worth of maple syrup, the largest theft Quebec police have ever investigated. The world's first $1 million coin was minted in Canada and made of solid gold. A museum in Ottawa held a dino idol popularity contest for some of its fossils. A life-size model of a record-breaking squid caught in 1878 guards Glover's Harbor, Newfoundland. It's 16.7 meters long. When Northwest Territory residents voted in 1996 for a new province name, Bob was the runner-up. Because of a map drawing mistake in 1793, part of the U.S. state of Minnesota is actually inside Canada. At an opera house on the U.S.-Canada border, the stage is in Canada while most seats are in the United States. Candlefish are so oily that early pioneers burned them as candles. Halifax's Old Town Clock was built by a British military commander who wanted to make sure that his troops would never be late. Saskatchewan's Little Lake Manitou, nicknamed the Dead Sea of Canada, is 5 times saltier than the ocean. The 644-kilometer Algonquin to Adirondack hiking trail was inspired by a migrating moose named Alice. The world's largest maple leaf, at more than 51 centimeters wide, was discovered in British Columbia. Canada's national summer sport lacrosse started as a ritual among Indigenous tribes. A hitchhiking robot called Hitchbot traveled 6,000 kilometers across Canada in just 26 days, with the help of 19 vehicles. A restaurant in Toronto once made an ice cream cake that weighed as much as 5 rhinoceroses. Pea meal bacon, or back bacon, is called Canadian bacon in the United States. An optical illusion makes cars appear to roll against gravity on Magnetic Hill in Moncton, New Brunswick. A group of elk is called a gang. Rumor has it that Punky Doodle's Corners, a community in Ontario, is named after a local innkeeper who mispronounced the lyrics to Yankee Doodle. Walruses can run as fast as humans. An enormous model of a 1951 Canadian nickel sits on a hill in Sudbury, Ontario. It's more than 64,000 times larger than the actual coin. Newfoundland dogs swim with a modified breaststroke. Saskatchewan is the world's largest exporter of mustard, and the United States eats most of it. Without its lakes, Canada would be a smaller country than the United States. The giant water bug, also known as a toe biter, is big enough to eat turtles and snakes. Mac the Moose, a statue in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, broke his jaw in 2007. On Christmas Eve, NORAD, a Canadian and U.S. military group, uses satellites, radar, and jets to track the course of Santa's sleigh as he travels around the world. Before Canada was officially named in the 1700s, Albunora, Afisa, and Hochelaga were also considered. People have been hunting for buried treasure on Oak Island, Nova Scotia for more than 200 years. Otters use a loose patch of armpit skin as a pocket to hold food. The world's first UFO landing pad is in Alberta. Canada's postal code for the North Pole is HOH-OHO. The world's biggest Canada goose in Wawa, Ontario stands about as tall as a two-story house. The sand on Prince Edward Island beaches is red. A Vancouver man set a record for doing the most backflips while riding a unicycle on a trampoline. 10. A man in British Columbia has the longest beard in the world, at more than 2.4 meters long. Vikings settled in Newfoundland more than 1,000 years ago, about 500 years before Christopher Columbus arrived in the Americas. An Ontario baseball field is the world's oldest, having hosted games for more than 140 years. Some people believe that aliens made a grove of gnarled aspen trees called the Crooked Bush that is found on a farm in Hafford, Saskatchewan. A Toronto company makes a hat that comes with a beard attached to keep your face warm. More than 50 million years ago, the Canadian Arctic was home to tortoises, alligators, massive birds, and hippo-like animals. People say that the mythical Ogopogo of Lake Okanagan in British Columbia looks like a 15-meter snake with the head of a horse. Lentils, beans, peas, and chickpeas are called pulses. The world's largest rubber chicken toss included 999 people at a church in Ontario. Winter temperatures in Canada can plunge colder than those on the surface of Mars. The world's smallest snowman was built by Ontario scientists using materials 50 times thinner than a human hair. Vancouver's Christmas light maze is powered by more than 85,000 LED bulbs. Wolf eyes glow in the dark. British Columbia has a single rail roller coaster that people can ride solo, reaching speeds up to 42 kilometers an hour. You can surf indoors at a restaurant in Quebec. Alberta residents can keep kangaroos as pets. A team of 10 people once shucked 8,800 oysters in just 1 hour. That's 146 oysters every minute at a competition on Prince Edward Island. The world's largest beaver dam in Alberta is visible from space. Alberta's Canadian Tractor Museum houses more than 100 old tractors, one of which sits atop a 15-meter working weather vane. An indoor soccer match in Alberta lasted 30 hours and 10 minutes. Downtown Calgary, Alberta has 18 kilometers elevated covered walkways that connect more than 100 buildings to help pedestrians stay out of the snow. Scientists engineered canola, short for Canadian oil, from a plant related to broccoli, cabbage, and mustard. A special maple leaf tulip, a white bloom with red accents, was created for Canada's 150th anniversary. Firefighters clashed with clowns in the streets of Toronto during the Circus Riot of 1855. You can find the world's tallest potato statue outside the Canadian Potato Museum in Prince Edward Island. At the Canadian Potato Museum in Prince Edward Island, you can order potato fudge, a sweet treat made with mashed potatoes. A Canadian man has a record-breaking collection of more than 25,000 Santa Claus decorations. Canada geese have tiny teeth all around their beaks and tiny barbs on the sides of their tongues. It's illegal in Canada to own comic books with scenes showing crime in them, even when the crime is committed by a superhero. Spotted Lake in British Columbia appears polka-dotted. Every day, more than 200,000 people travel through Toronto's underground pathways, home to the world's largest subterranean shopping complex. After World War II, Canadian engineers built a prototype for a new secret weapon for the U.S. Air Force, a flying saucer. Basketball was invented in the Massachusetts, USA by a man from Ontario, Canada. His invention of the sport evolved from a game he played as a kid called Duck on Rock, which involved throwing rocks to knock pebbles off boulders. The Star Trek capital of Canada, Vulcan, Alberta, has a tourist center that was built to look like a spaceship. Alexander Graham Bell made the world's first long-distance phone call in Ontario. More than 200,000 pancakes are served during Alberta's annual Calgary Stampede Rodeo. Canadian couples compete in the North American Wife Carrying Championships, whose winners are the first couple to complete a 254-meter course. Vanilla flavoring is made using a goo produced from a beaver's rear end. A 13-meter model of a mosasaur, known as the T-Rex of the sea, named Bruce, is on display in Morden, Manitoba. In a small town in Alberta, scientists found a 1,600-year-old dinner that someone left in the oven. Tourtière, a meat pie from Quebec, was originally filled with a now extinct passenger pigeon. People eat their meals in total darkness at a restaurant in Montreal. Some puffins can hold more than 60 fish in their beak. James Bond was based in part of a real-life spy from Winnipeg, Manitoba named Sir William Stephenson. Ontario Camp X was the first secret agent training school in North America. About 75,000 red-sided garter snakes hibernate underground in Manitoba caverns each winter. Glendon, Alberta was the world's largest statue of a pierogi, a Ukrainian dumpling on a fork. Accidentally adding an extra U after the Q in Iqaluit, the name of Nunavut's capital changes the meaning from many fish to people with unwiped bottoms. The Canadian-invented sport kinball resembles volleyball, except the ball is as big as a refrigerator and 3 teams play on the court. The G-suit, invented in Canada, is designed with self-inflating bubbles that stop blood from pooling in jet pilots' legs so they don't black out during fast turns. The first person to swim the 22 kilometers from Vancouver to Bowen Island took off her bathing suit and made the trip covered in nothing but lard. Quebec's famous ice hotel is built out of 453 tons of ice and more than 272,000 tons of snow. Hot spring swimmers in the Yukon can compete in a hair freezing contest, in which participants sculpt their looks into wacky designs in minus 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. If an eagle loses a feather on its right wing, it will lose the exact same feather on its left wing. In 1860, an Ontario man crossed the Horseshoe Falls section of Niagara on a tightrope while carrying a washing machine on his back. The first snowmobiles invented in Canada were supposed to be named ski dogs, but a typo earned them the name ski-doos instead. You can visit the world's largest indoor lake and roller coaster at the West Edmonton Mall in Alberta. The mall is so big you'd need 72 hours to visit every store. At Alberta's Gopher Hole Museum, stuffed gophers are posed in everyday scenarios, such as having a picnic at the beach, getting their hair done, and pumping gas. Before choosing the maple leaf design, Canada contemplated a flag with a beaver on it. After the national anthem debuted in 1880, Canadians waited 20 years to hear an English version of O Canada, which was originally written in French. A Toronto bookstore has a vending machine that dispenses random old books. You're not allowed to paint a wooden ladder in Alberta. In the Canadian Arctic, miners discovered the Foxfire diamond, a golf ball size 187.630 carat gem, but almost mistakenly threw it away. The giant diamond glows blue in the dark. A Canadian robot named Dexter does repairs to the International Space Station. Special green ink invented by a chemist in Canada is used to print U.S. money because it's impossible to copy or erase. The sun appeared to turn blue in 1950 when huge forest fires in British Columbia and Alberta filled the skies with smoke. Churchill, Manitoba has a jail for polar bears. Quebec has a special police force known as the Tongue Troopers, who make sure that local signs are written properly in French. Vancouver is named Hollywood North because so many movies are filmed there, even many that are set in the United States. Native Canadians used to dine on roast polar bear, fried woodchuck, and boiled caribou hooves. Plaster Rock, New Brunswick boasts the world's largest sculpture of a fiddlehead fern at 7 meters tall. A house in Saskatchewan is so airtight that it's possible to keep the whole place warm with a hair dryer. The coldest temperature ever recorded in North America was minus 63 degrees Celsius in Snag, a small village in the Yukon. The world's largest totem pole in Alert Bay, British Columbia, is about 5 times as tall as a telephone pole. Grizzly bears have their own overpass to cross the highway in Banff National Park in Alberta. Beluga whales are sometimes called the canaries of the sea. In British Columbia's cold spa, you can relax in temperatures of minus 110 degrees Celsius for up to 3 minutes at a time. The first Thanksgiving in North America was celebrated in Newfoundland on May 27, 1578, with a meal of salt beef, biscuits, and peas. Polar explorers in 1906 claimed to have discovered a new floating continent, named Crockerland, but it was never seen again. Nunavut and parts of Ontario, Manitoba, and Quebec used to be called Rupert's Land after the King of England's nephew. A squirrel's heart rate drops from 300 beats per minute to fewer than 10 beats per minute when it hibernates. The United States and Canada share the longest international border in the world. It's illegal to wear a snake in public in Fredericton, New Brunswick. 35% of the music on the radio each week has to be by Canadian artists. There's about 1 bear for every 2 people on the Yukon Territory. Taxi drivers in Halifax, Nova Scotia aren't allowed to wear t-shirts. A tombstone in Ontario was inscribed with a crossword-like code that wasn't decoded until 100 years later. Every Macintosh apple in the world is descended from a single tree discovered in Ontario in 1811. Canadian-born hockey legend Jerry Cheevers drew 150 stitches on his face mask, 1 for every time the puck hit him in the face. The Bay of Fundy off Nova Scotia has the world's highest tides, as tall as a 5-story building. Wildlife, including Sasquatch in British Columbia, can't be hunted without a license. A border dispute between Canada and Maine, USA, led to the 1838-39 Pork and Beans War. The Royal Canadian Navy uses bear traps to keep helicopters from sliding off ship decks. In Souris, Prince Edward Island, you can't build a snowman taller than 75 centimeters on a corner lot. Jake, an orange tabby cat from Ontario, has a record-setting 28 toes, the most of any cat in the world. A Canadian robot called Kid's Arms is 10 times faster than a human at performing surgery. A large part of northern Canada has lower gravity than the rest of the planet. There is a company that makes paper from moose poop and pine needles. Mr. Canoehead is a Canadian superhero who fights criminals with a metal canoe that's welded to his head. At a gym in British Columbia, you can take a yoga class while bunnies hop around the room. No pet rats are allowed in Alberta. An Ontario farm raises crickets for food. Its barn can hold 100 million crickets at a time. The farm's crickets are free-range and live in specially designed cricket condos that mimic their living conditions in the world. The Northern Manitoba Trappers Festival includes a competition for most colorful beard, hairiest legs, and shiniest head. Most oxen lived during the Ice Age. Battling musk oxen slam their heads together with the same force as a 27-kilometer-an-hour car crash. A grasshopper hears using tiny organs on its knees. A Vancouver fair introduced a pickle corn dog, a hot dog inside a hollowed-out pickle breaded and deep-fried. Reindeer's eyes turn blue in winter. Newspapers used to be printed on paper made from old clothes, until a Canadian poet figured out how to make paper from wood pulp. The modern whoopee cushion was invented in Canada. The Canadian Eskimo dog, or Kimik, is the oldest domesticated dog breed in North America. Beluga whales can mimic human speech. It's illegal to climb trees in Oshawa, Ontario. Canada's name dates back to 1535, when French explorer Jacques Cartier misunderstood the Iroquois word for village, Kanata, and used it to describe the entire territory. It's against the law to challenge someone to or to accept a duel. It took less than an hour for a man to pogo stick up the 1,899 steps of the CN Tower in Toronto. Canadian actress Florence Lawrence, who appeared in more than 200 silent films, is known as the first movie star. You can be ticketed for water skiing in the dark in Canada. The largest island in a lake on an island in a lake on an island is in Canada. A former Ottawa jail is now a hostel you can spend the night in. You can be a sorcerer or a witch, but pretending to be one is against the law. Police arrested a goat for loitering outside a donut shop in Saskatchewan, Canada. The world's largest axe in New Brunswick has a time capsule buried inside its 7-meter steel head. For 40 years, people weren't allowed to sell stoves on Wednesdays in Vancouver. The short-tailed weasel does a war dance to lure its prey. Woodpeckers have a special bone that wraps around their skull like a seatbelt to protect their brain. The world's slowest growing tree is a white cedar near the Great Lakes that's only grown 10 centimeters in 155 years. Some say ghosts from the Titanic haunt a seafood restaurant in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Moose eat almost 10,000 calories a day. That's like eating more than 300 cups of broccoli. Under their fur, polar bears have black skin. That's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Bye!